Good morning and afternoon and evening. Hello, everybody. Hi. Hey, Carl.
Hey, yo.
Welcome to the R1 2022 release live stream for Kendo UI. I'm Alyssa Nicoll. I'm a developer advocate here at Progress, and this is Carl. I'm never going to get it.
Yeah,
this
right.
is Carl.
Yeah,
right.
Oh, and I'm pointing behind me, too, trying to get over to you. There we go. It goes forward. Hi, everybody. Carl Bergenhem. I'm the product manager for Kendo UI. And of course, I'm here to talk about Angular specifically. So we'll be chatting about Kendo UI for Angular. Yeah.
I'm super pumped. It's a really cool release and I'm alive, right? Like that's a great, for those of you who don't know, I've been off streaming for a while. I got the Flovid and I am finally back on my feet. But forgive me if I seem a bit like, has she ever opened VS Code before? Maybe. We don't know. You know, this is all, it's a whole new world. So on this side of it, but I am so pumped to be here going through some of the new bits. And I actually, if for those of you who missed it, I kicked off my my back to streaming this week with Sam, one of our other developer advocates, on Tuesday. And I don't know if you heard the word, Carl, but we did the most gnarly coolest stuff with like the .NET side of life and Angular. It was he was showing me how you can put Angular into a desktop app, and I still lay in bed at night thinking about how amazing it is. Like you essentially create this Maui desktop app and you use a web view to put your Angular app inside of, and I was just like, it's all working together. Like, so there's more
neat
to come on that front. I know, right? I was
yeah, I'm gonna have to check
super
that out.
nerding out.
Yeah, because my brain is always like, oh, Angular on the desktop. Yeah, it's a PWA, right? Like you just add some stuff in, boom, or it's an Electron app too. Like either way, you know.
Sam is so cool. He like walked us. He was like, he like handheld, like walked us, showed us, okay, this is how you turn an Angular app into a PWA. I was like, yes, this is how you do it, you know, with Electron and add that in. I'm like, yes, we're all. And he's like, and here's how to do it with something fun like Maui. And I was like, what? Like it was really good.
Yeah.
Hi, Eve. Good to see you. I think Eve's going to be on tomorrow, actually, too. For those of you who didn't hear the word, for some streaming updates. Oh, thank you, Dan. Happy to be back. And Catherine's in the chat. Yeah, so everyone says Florona, and I don't know why, because Flovid is so much more fun to say. So I'm sticking with
Flovid actually almost sounds like something I want. Like, if somebody named their product Flovid, I'd probably buy it just off
Love
the
it.
name alone. Yeah, Flovid,
Mhm.
sure,
Yep.
yeah. I like to shorten it even further. It's just the vid, just
The vid. So
VID.
someone told me that. No, it was a good friend who's in the Angular community actually, and he messaged me yesterday and was like, "So me and the family got the vid," and I was like, "Did I send him a video?" Like I was so like
Yeah, I
vid
think you have
people
to.
is already
Yeah,
short. We can't be doing this doubling up on act. I can't keep up.
yeah.
So,
You
anyways,
might
it
have
was
to add like
cracking
the
me up.
apostrophe in front of it, to let people
Oh,
know it's
that
not
would
the
have
video. Yeah.
that it's not a video. Yeah, because I was like, did we send him a video? And Turtle, my husband was like, so it finally clicked. It finally
Yeah.
clicked. The vid. Yeah, there it is.
Yep.
Ah.
Honestly, this is what the stream is, just fun names for the modern plague that we're dealing with. Yeah.
I know. I want you all to know that, like, I mean, it's been crazy just how many me and my sisters all got it at the same time, and we live in different states and cities. So it is crazy right now. And if you're going through it, I want you to know that you are loved and it is okay. And this is just a season and it will pass. Because
Yeah.
when you are in it, sometimes your brain can just get down in the murk. So that was one of the things I told people. I was like, just balancing, trying not to get just depressed about being ill. And so, and especially, I don't know if you know this, but juggling a toddler with a fever is like a whole new level of like mom. Like,
Yeah,
it's like super.
that's tricky. That's really tricky because
Yeah.
for
Yep.
me, I don't have kids at this point, and all I have is cats. So when I'm sick, it's great because the cats are just like, "Oh, you're a warm body. That's still let me lay upon thee,"
Yeah.
and then like that's
I,
it. Yeah, yeah, you're just
I
a
was gonna say,
warm
my
pillow.
dog did not mind that there was
Yeah,
more time in bed. My dog
yeah,
was like, "Oh, this is fun. This is what we're doing now. Like, this is
yep.
where we live."
Perfect. Yeah, I never wanted to
Yeah.
leave bed. You're the one that gets up every morning. I'm the one that's trying to say bed all day. Yeah.
Mhm. No, Catherine was saying DJ Flovid. I could see it.
Ooh, yeah,
I
that's a
could,
good one.
yeah. There's like, or
Yeah.
they were saying it sounds like a rapper. Good morning. I always, my friends. I'm sorry, people were calling you rap the other day. They were shortening rap time I to just rap, and I mean, made it work, Cindy. But also, I know you're not rap, and I wanted to let you know that because my friends were calling you rap on stream. So, well, it is so good to be here, and I'm super pumped. We're gonna talk about some Angular tiddly bits. I'm gonna
Ooh, yeah.
share my screen. I want to figure out how to get, because I want chat to still kind of be up. So I'm gonna do this weird. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna share the screen, and then I will do the weird share everything, and then we just might, if we're all lucky,
Oh, a little
we
bit
might get to
behind the
see.
scenes happening over there too. I love it.
We might get to see my baby. He's 2 and he's getting ready for daycare right now, and so his dad might bring him in, so he might make a guest appearance on the Angular release stream. I know
Oh, that's fun.
he's the funniest. Like, he's just getting to that age where he's like talking a lot, and I'm just really enjoying it. I'm learning that I guess I'm not really a baby person, because the more that he like gets independent and can talk to me and like share concepts, I'm like, this is awesome. So
Yeah, that's
oh,
what
it's
I've heard
good.
is that as they develop a personality and they're able to communicate, that's when it gets even more fun.
So fun. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, not to, I know that people hate this when you say it, but when they're a toddler, it is almost like the dog or the cat, right? You're just like, this is the thing that I'm trying to keep alive, that I just need to, based
Mm-hmm.
off of body language and the sounds they make, figure out what they want. But then eventually,
That was,
they get
yeah,
past that stage, right? And
that
also, of
was
course, you have to
really
keep it
hard for
alive.
me and
Yeah.
Zach. We're both like developers, and we we actually were like, where's the manual? That was something we kept wanting, because we're like, we
Excuse
want,
me.
like, okay, you do A, you do B, baby lives, right? Like, and so it was just
Yeah.
really difficult. Now that there's more feedback, and uh, it's just getting fun. So if
Yeah.
you're
Oh, that's
there with the
awesome.
baby stage also, I just want to let you know, this too shall pass. It is a phase. Just soak it up.
Ah, yeah, yeah, but in 5 to 10 years, you're gonna be saying, "Oh, I just miss when it was a little baby. It didn't have all
Oh
the
my
back
goodness.
sass built in." Yeah.
The back sass.
That's a feature that unfortunately just grows over time, I think. Yeah, it's technical debt.
The back sass log. I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I do feel. I know that my parents and my in-laws, they both let me and my husband know that we do have a lot of payback coming, a lot of karma for our ways as children. We were both very wild children, so I feel it. I feel it coming. It's like this building storm, Carl. It's coming for us.
Yeah.
So. Oh, is this going to be an
Anyways.
Angular demo? Yes. Is it Shy Guy? I'm going to butcher that always. I always butcher everybody's name, but I love you anyways. Today we are talking about the release for Kendo UI for Angular. We have lots of cool new components and updates, and we're going to be talking about it. I actually let me pull up trying to figure out, I had everything situated so I could show you like my code over here and we could go through the list over here. But then I was like, oh, I want chat up on screen. So I think I'm going to do this weird, goofy nudge it over here bit. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see if it works. And that way I can just have chat kind of up on screen a little bit. But yes, so this, of course, is, for those of you who don't know, My Little Pony app from the Tour of Heroes. So raise your hand in chat if you have heard of the Tour of Heroes. I always like to ask this with like new audiences or anytime like we do a release, because I don't know, I'm surprised by how many people either were like, yes, that's how I got started with Angular, or who have never heard of it ever. Like it's a very, I don't know if you've seen this, Carl, but like it's very polarizing. Like either people like know of it, love it, or they're like never heard of it. So
Yeah, the My Little Pony version of it, or the Tour of Heroes in general.
Yeah, not the pony version specifically. There we go. Hey, Napalm. Hey, good to see you. I've got some hands raising in the chat. Oh, Catherine. Oh, so yeah, I was gonna ask because I know Catherine. She's into the React world now, but I did want to know now that she just knowing that she has an Angular background, like that, because the Tour of Heroes for me, I met John Papa like in the conference circuit, and that's when I found out about the Tour of Heroes, and I'd already gotten into Angular JS at the time. And if for those of you who don't know, if you're like beginning Angular, if you go to angular.io, a lot of their getting started resources for Angular, like the code around it, like I think if we just go to like adding navigation and then scroll down, the code around it is hero-esque. It's in this Tour of Heroes application. And I decided a while back to strip it and ponify it because I just really love My Little Pony. And I know you and Catherine yesterday were on for the React stream. So if you missed it, it was a good one. You guys should definitely check out the video. But Catherine has one for, it's Star Trek, right? With LCARS, the LCARS system.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know where to get started with that world, Carl. I know I'm like, gotta appeal to all the bronies. Napalm, I don't know if you know this, but I'm an honorary brony. I was told back in the day that even though I'm not a guy, I get to be a brony because of my intense love of My Little Pony. So I get to be part of all of the communities. I was inducted in. Yeah. But no, Carl, I've often wanted to be like, a Trekkie because I'm such an intense like fantasy lover. Like that is a huge part of my life. But sometimes there's just not an easy, it's like coding. Sometimes there's not an easy point of entry. It's like with Discworld, you all were talking about it, and I'm like, where do you even, and I'm sure if I Googled it, I would get a lot of opinions on the matter.
Yeah.
I'm like, because there's the show, and then there's the new one that you were talking about, and then I don't know. Is there like, we prefer trekkers? Is that a thing? Did I?
Ooh, hey, I usually refer to people as Trekkies, but trekkers, I'll update my lingo Trekkies. For sure. Yeah,
trekkers makes me think like you're nomads, like you're hiking.
Yeah.
No,
it has a double K in there. I dig it. As somebody, by the way, that I'm not as big of a Trekkie or trekker as other people out there. But my personal journey was, I actually Captain Janeway is my captain. So like I started with that series of Voyager. But
Okay.
do
So
hear,
like if I look
Captain.
up Captain Janeway
Yeah.
Voyager
So yeah,
series,
it's Star
this
Trek
will
Voyager. Yeah, that's a really
okay.
good series if you ask me. A lot of folks say, and Catherine mentioned it as well, starting with the Next Generation. So that has Captain Picard in it. Love me some Captain Picard. And then that if you watch
Are these
that,
books?
yeah,
Or are these shows?
shows,
Wait, confused.
shows.
Shows. So are
Yeah.
there books?
There probably is books, but from my
Okay.
experience, it's
Oh,
like
okay.
predominantly, the TV series, right? Because it started back with
Oh,
the
okay.
William Shatner show, and kind of then we've had like multiple series since then. And what's nice
Okay.
about that, they share a lot in common. And this is where somebody can correct me, but it's not like you need to watch all of the original show in order to understand the Next Generation, in order to understand Voyager. You can kind of pick a series that seems like it's in your wheelhouse, and then kind of watch that, and then you figure out some parts
Carl,
of the
is
show.
this
And
akin to Doctor Who, where like you go all the way back and you're like, oh my, what am I watching? But then it gets
so
better, and then you're like, yes, like or
the
not. This is
tricky
nothing.
thing, I'm going to say no, because Doctor Who kind of has the idea of, okay, so now it's like the next Doctor, and like there's a transition. While Star Trek, it's generally, kind of like this is the series from start to finish. You're following in Star Trek Voyager, you're following this one, crew, and that's it. So it's kind of self-contained within
Okay.
the series. So the other series, there might be references, but yeah, it's not. Thank you. Somebody has corrected me. I'm not. I haven't watched too much Doctor Who, so thank you. I
Regeneration, not
appreciate it.
transition.
Yeah. But anyway,
love
so
that.
the shows. What's nice about it is that you can watch it from start to finish, follow that one crew, and then you don't need to feel like, oh, I need to watch like 120 episodes just because they came out before in previous series. So that's what I personally like about it.
I know some people find that daunting, but unless there's like a really big world like that, like with Wheel of Time, I know you were talking about the books yesterday, but one of my good friends, my college roommate, she was like, oh yeah, I just finished this 4-book series. And I was like, you started a 4-book series? Like, that's so tiny. Like, I'm like, if there's not 12 or more, I feel like I'm wasting my time and getting invested in this universe. With there being so much, I feel like some people are like, oh, okay, this is worth me getting into,
Yeah.
So
but there's definitely, and you have the series.
Yeah, like Catherine said, you want to watch them all.
Yeah.
Oh, Dresden Files. All right, you guys.
Yeah.
The sticky note list from yesterday's show.
I know. This is
like, because like as you were all talking, both code things and fantasy, like etc. things. I was just like the sticky notes. So I have a question, Carl.
Yes.
I saw this a couple on the update for Angular.
Yeah.
And I know. Actually, I might be saying something that I shouldn't be saying. So at some point, you can just start making like a really big buzzing noise, and I'll know that means to shut up. But I know that we're working our way towards, I don't know how to say this, an easier modular, sassy, variable trickle-down system. How do you say that in a better way?
Yeah, I think a good term that we can think about is design systems or design language. That's very, you see that pop up quite a lot. Essentially, it's all about making sure that any UI component library that you use, or any UI component, that you're building maybe yourself, or mixing and matching, that they all look and feel consistent across applications. So when I come to Alyssa Inc., whether it's the main page or one of your applications, I can see the same look and feel throughout the app, throughout all those websites I visit. And then if I work for Alyssa Inc., then all my internal applications also kind of look and feel the same. So it all feels like it's a part of the same company. And part of what we're doing here now with these updates, so specifically in this release, we're talking about the buttons, the inputs, the data inputs, and the dropdowns. So that's a lot of components in those packages and those categories, right?
You touch everything, right, with that, like almost, because it's just with.
They're kind of the building block components of other components. Like if you look into the grid, for example, it's built up of all these components in order to be able to do filtering, sorting, grouping, paging, all that good stuff, right? So while the grid isn't a component that we touch today with this release, it's still something that is affected in a way because of the built-in components. But the idea here is that based on feedback from our customers and based on the adoption of design language as a term and as a concept, what we're trying to do with our themes is make them easier to customize and easier to understand. To be completely honest, there's as somebody that isn't as into SAS or CSS as I know some of our lovely folks, even in the chat today, might be. It sometimes can be a little bit difficult to fully understand, what variable do I need to do? How do I update this color? Or how do I even make a button rounded, for example, right, and have control over that? So what we're trying to do is provide more options, rendering options or theme options, whatever you want to call them, to just give you the control. And we're doing this kind of in batches throughout the year. It might leak in a little bit into 2023 as well. But what
I was going to say, that sounds ambitious, like to have all of it this year.
Yeah, there's a lot. We have a lot of components, over 100 UI components, right, that we need to potentially work with. But what's nice is that we're taking the approach of, okay, what components build up into other components so that by the time that we get to maybe the grid, the scheduler, etc., a lot of them
all the smaller things are taken care of.
Yeah, exactly.
Dan was cracking me up. He said, as the product marketing guy, I'm now branding this the Sassy Trickle Down Design System trademark. I love that. Yes. Or short for, oh my gosh, TSTDDS. Yes, of course.
Yes.
Perfect.
Easy. It rolls off the
seriously tongue. Though, the idea of this, like, I don't know how to get the excitement across for this, but it is really going to change the way that you can interact with our component library as a whole. And it's almost like, in the way that I understand it, it's almost like providing this additional extra API layer, like, right, of like these variables that you can plug into that really will like change everywhere or update everywhere. And so because having done very custom work with our components, it's like these are our card components, for example, and we make it so that you're able to add your own brand into it. But this is like, I don't know, it's above and beyond that. And I'm really butchering the explanation of it. But you said with the R1 2022 update for like buttons inputs, the date inputs, and the drop downs, that they have these, 5? So is it kind of like, as these things come out, I should now look for these as like setting theme color in either SAS or setting it in like inline in the template, and like these are just like our new variables like that we get that we have access to?
Yeah, so you still have a lot of the same variables as well that you had before. So what we're trying to do, there will be some breaking changes, depending on what you've done with the themes in the past. A lot of folks actually, when they updated, because they hadn't done any modifications, nothing really changed. If there are some visual regressions, we'll of course take care of that. But these options are optional. So it's not that there's always, like this big breaking change, and you have to now use these new variables or these options. So we're yes, there will be some that you might have to work a little bit with, or maybe create your own custom CSS class in order to be able to contain some of the new options in there. But what we are trying to do is essentially give you these options as a way to, if you like to enhance your application or certain components, right? And you can do this on a component by component level, or if you want to maybe approach it in a more global way, so that you can say, in this application, all my components are going to be small. So, in terms of size, or the theme color, instead of, you can even see here with this image, right? We have all these different colors now, even available in the button, where before it was just the regular button color, gray, and then maybe some hover state and, kind of the animation of when you click it, and then the primary color, and that was it. But now you have like all these options.
So overwhelming, because it's like, not only are you like adding in this additional layer, but you're I don't know, it's almost like standardizing across the board.
Mhm.
I would love to see the game plan, like like with I'm imagining like a football chart with all like the circles and the lines, almost like a Gantt, of like,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
we achieve perfection, in the middle. So I'm really, really excited about this, but I'm also like amazed that just the effort that's going into it.
Oh, yeah.
So
The,
I
the
cannot.
teams absolutely crushed it with this release in terms of the amount of work, not just with this, but then all the UI components and the features we added on top of that. But yeah,
Mm.
this is going to be a big part of the story throughout the year. And I'm really excited. And in
I
terms
have
of that game plan, what's nice is that we know that to continue the football analogy, there's going to be an audible
yeah, yeah.
call at some point, depending on customer feedback. But we have a good plan, and we're continuing to chat with everybody that is now going to be able to use these options to see how we can further improve it and tweak it as we go along. So it'll be fun to see even how the game plan evolves.
Have you
From where we're at today.
talked with the devs as we're creating, because here's a new component that we built this release. Is it difficult to keep this new design bits in mind going forward, or is it just easier because they're new components, so we're building them the new way with the new access and the new everything in mind? Do you
Yeah.
know, have you heard conversation about that?
Yeah, so I think there is probably some forward thinking around, hey, this is a new component that we're going to introduce. The one tricky part is that since Kendo UI for Angular is just one product in a family of products that actually share common rendering. So even though they're all
Yeah.
built from the ground up for Angular, React, jQuery, Vue,
Yeah.
Blazor, MVC Core, like all these different technologies, right? When we introduce a new component in Angular, it might be that because we haven't necessarily touched it yet with the new options, like that's in the future, we don't have too much that we can do in terms of consideration yet, because in order to get there, all the UI components across all of those libraries, the barcode across 8 or 9 different products has to stay in sync. We might have to wait until the day that we decide today's the day that we're going to add these options into this one component, and then all the teams have working coordination. So it's not just one single development team that's working on this. It's
I know that, and
several
that's
teams
part of the
working together.
mind-boggling thing that I'm like, you said you're like, okay, just the idea of a change to the button. Not only does that button touch so many different components and is a part of so many different things, but just outside of Angular, I'm like, everybody has a button, Carl.
Yeah, yeah. So this list of different frameworks and libraries that we support, we have to think about that and plan for all of it. So it's definitely a Herculean task, but so far so good, and we'll continue to see that throughout the year as we add more of these options to more components.
Napalm was talking about killing for a community license. Ping me, Napalm, and we can talk on DM me on Twitter or something, and I can see about getting you a longer trial or something. But for those of you who don't know, we do have a 30-day free trial where you can get started. A lot of our docs will point you to that, where you can try them out. And I'm actually going to show you, if we have some time today, I'll just show you the process of looking at a component that you want and then implementing it inside your Angular app, because sometimes that can be a little bit daunting, especially with over 100 components, like Carl's saying. When I first got started with Kendo, I was like, I don't even know how to get the button. Where's the button? I'm so confused. It was a lot. So we'll walk through that. Does the new Kendo Angular library require us to update our application to Angular 13? It does not. And I'm really glad you brought this up. And I'm going to show you. You want to see something really scary, Carl? You're like, not really.
Always.
You're like, we're on stream.
Yeah. Are you going to spook me?
I'm gonna spook you. All right. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I'm gonna just zoom out a little bit more and put full screen. Okay. So I'm just gonna scroll up, and this is just a little taste of yesterday's NPM death of me, because I was I cleared out the thing, but I mean, it was just like red at one point of like, like all these exceptions and errors.
Oh yeah, you were
So
updating
I
absolutely everything.
actually, yeah, with the warnings and the dependency, I don't know if you've ever followed like where you get this like NPM thing. And so you're like, okay, update that dependency. Okay, update those 12. And you have to like like cherry pick your way through this like minefield.
Oh yeah.
Did eventually get, so this is what we are running on right now. And I can point you to the GitHub. But if I go down to my package JSON, you will see that I am actually on 12, but I am using Catherine, God bless her, helped me out when I was down with the FlowVid, and she added some of the new bits to my sidebar for me, like this barcode that we were just talking about. So I have some of the newest bits, but I'm still on version 12. And if you check out, and some of you might have seen down here, the branch I'm on is update to 13. So I am mid updating to 13, but I had this conversation with, it was either you, Carl, or Catherine yesterday. It was last night. And I was like, okay, so I finally got everything working because I had ran into some weird dependency issues. I was like, do I continue to push an update to 13 or do I wait until after the stream? I was advised to wait until after
Yeah.
the stream by some
Yeah.
blessed soul. So I will be pushing up to this branch after the stream. We'll be on the latest Angulars, but you don't have to be. And I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that, Carl, for a minute, because I know, in this article, we talk about how we do have Angular 13 support
Yep.
now with Angular and the rendering engine changes. For those of you who might be new to Angular or just haven't heard the word about, the new rendering engine, that everything, it's complicated because essentially we are on it now, right? Like but we also still have a NGCC is still active, so to help out, libraries that use the old rendering engine, and so it's kind of this weird world that we're about to step into. And I didn't know, Carl, if you knew the game plan for that, but essentially
Yeah.
we are backwards compatible right now. That is.
Yeah, exactly. We follow the Angular LTS plan for versions. So what you've seen in the past is that we actually go back, 3, 4, maybe Angular versions or something like that. If you look into the official documentation for Angular, you see, how far back the support goes. And we do the same thing with our packages. And then if you're stuck in a situation where certain apps might not be able to be updated or you need a little bit more time, we also essentially freeze the last supported version for a particular version of Angular in time. And you can approach that by doing the whatever version it is that you need, and be able to pull down that package or that set of packages specifically for that version. And we have documentation that goes into that, actually, in terms of how do you pull down a specific version, what do we support, etc. So
Yes.
we try to keep up with the latest and greatest,
I
but
think
also have backwards compatibility.
I'm gonna send this in the chat just in case you're updating that or you're working on it. We have this like the update docs, but these are some of my own personal notes of like, if you want to upgrade all progress packages, just like my literal notes to myself, or if you just want to do the ones for Kendo UI for Angular, because you can add these little filters, which, took me forever to finally get to the point. But I think, Carl, what you're saying is if you need an older version, you can also specify that whenever you're.
Yeah. So even if we technically didn't, let's say, add because at some point we have to say, well, this version isn't really supported by Angular anymore, so we can't backport components. You can still kind of have, access to that library for as long as you need to for a particular application or set of applications until you're ready to upgrade. So we support the latest and greatest, try to stick with the support plan coming from the Angular framework itself. And in some cases, we've actually supported older versions for longer. But the kind of official sense that we have is that, once a version gets dropped by Angular, we tend to drop it as well. But that doesn't mean that you're left high and dry. You do still have that version frozen in time. So if anybody really wants to, you can still download an Angular 2 compatible version that just has less components. But
so as an Angular GDE, I just want you all to know that like the Angular team, they do I'm on monthly calls with them and I'm in a Slack channel with them. I see how much they really do care about. So if you're ever do run into issues with an upgrade, that's something that they're very passionate about, helping smooth out those issues. But I know from experience, just on even my smaller demo apps that aren't in production, that upgrade isn't always as easy as face value, right? Like there's weird things that happen in upgrade world. So it has been really nice having that leeway to not be like, and now we're on 13, right? So
Yeah. Just good luck, everybody. Yeah.
Mike, as an Angular GDE, not a subtle flex. Listen, there is nothing flexing about this girl. Mike started his first stream on Twitch, by the way. Broco Dev. It was
Ooh, yeah. Oh, that's
amazing
into
this
the
week.
microphone, away from the microphone. Yeah.
Absolutely killed it. And he was using, I think he was using Ionic, which, by the way, Mike, I think you and I should do, instead of Ionic for an Angular app, we should try Maui to get something on mobile. I'm just nerding out about it. But anyways, we'll figure it out. But Mike is like one of probably the smartest devs I know, especially in the Angular sphere. There's, I've brought some code to him before, and some of my other friends just like that were GDEs just could not figure it out, and Mike was like the only one who was like, oh, let's here's a workaround. And so the way his brain works is absolutely brilliant. So I definitely follow that, Broseph. There's no flexing here. I was just letting you all know that I know they care a lot. That was all I was saying with that. That was
I'm of the opinion that you should flex away.
But so I know we've got a ton of new components, and then there's actually some updates that I really wanted to talk about. And I know yesterday, especially if you've been with us all week, there is quite a bit of overlap. Carl, is there because you were telling us, I wonder if I still have that thing up, this one, because there's so many libraries. And a lot of them, we try to keep them, especially if it makes sense for our community, in sync with each other. What I mean that is, let's say React has a Gantt chart, but the Angular community could also use a Gantt chart. Then they will build one for the Angular component library. Is there like a mega map, that's like, we have built this many components, overall, and then and then you're trying to make feature parity? Or is it literally just team by team what that community needs at the time?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mix of both, honestly. Yeah, because we essentially every one of these products is built from the ground up. And to make sure that we can take advantage of the framework that we're building upon, or the library, depending on the word you want to use to be technically correct. And what happens, right, is that forms different communities, and depending on the folks that we talk to, on the Angular side, we might see a ton of votes for this one component, and then on the React side, we have a completely different set of components that people are voting for. Yeah. So we have kind of, we want to, of course, have one-to-one parity, because part of the power of this and sharing the common rendering is that for larger organizations that might have a team that does Angular, a team that does React, a team that does Vue, maybe, some folks that are jumping onto Blazor, having the ability to just copy and paste themes, or, download one single NPM package that has your custom styles, but then have the team be able to work with the product that has a very natural API for them, I think is very powerful. Essentially,
I'm trying to pull up plan,
but yeah,
because you were talking about how votes and things. I was trying to pull up the because I've got a million bookmarks to keep myself organized. And I actually had someone DM me, and they were asking for a sneak peek on a certain thing before the webinar, and I was saying that really reaching out, because we are a full team that has this mega support system, reaching out for either checking to see if someone else has created this kind of support ticket asking this question, or reaching out to say, hey, can you help me with this, even build out a demo for my own company. But this is not the link, or at least this is the longer version of the link. Is the shortcut is feedback dot
Yeah, I'll
Do you
post it
remember,
in the
Carl?
chat
It's
here.
like,
So this is the
yeah,
specific link to the Angular feedback. Yeah, so you have it right there.
yes,
And
perfect.
yeah, you can see
Because I
kind of
know
a
whenever
video.
we're talking about this, like like the voting and the things, this is where you're gonna want to go to find out like if something's been talked about already, or if you need to start the conversation. So
Yeah. And we generally
yeah,
also notify folks. And when I say in general, that just means that if I somehow haven't gotten to it yet, so it's on me. You can blame me. Just tweet right at me and call me out. But we also keep this up to date with when we've implemented a feature or component, or when we have something
okay.
planned for an upcoming release. So yeah, but it's really the evolution of each one of these libraries is based on community feedback, while knowing that yes, we have this backlog of UI components that we can always reach into. And you'd be surprised.
Mm.
Sometimes it comes from the desktop world, and I know it might be an ugly word, but sometimes Silverlight can be an inspiration for components that were popular there as well. Because a lot of folks are looking to recreate some of the applications they had in Silverlight in HTML and CSS and JavaScript. So we have a lot of different areas that we can pull from alongside
As
with customer
I
feedback.
For those of you who don't know, on Tuesdays I have a Twitch stream I do on this channel called JavaScript Girl in a .NET World. And as I learn .NET, I'm learning that Silverlight is not the ugliest word out there, apparently. There's like 12 other no-no words that we don't talk about, like that are of higher red flag than Silverlight. So
Oh, okay.
I don't know. You
Yeah.
should feel. Yeah, I know. I'm like, what is this whole new world? It's been fun. I love it. I pulled up the sidebar where so Catherine was telling me, she's like, what an ingenious idea. I have this application that we were talking about earlier, the Tour of Heroes, and I try to pull in new components when I can, but I have this sidebar that goes full screen whenever it's small enough. That I throw in all of the components just initially so that I can like see them rendering on the page. So if you pull this down, I'm on the GitHubs as Alyssa Michelle. I know it's inconsistent. When I was in college, I actually went by my middle name. Fun fact, Michelle. Everybody called me Shell for short. And so when I was making that weird transition from college to normal life, I didn't know if I should go by Alyssa or Michelle. So that's why my GitHub has both names. I know it's weird. But I have a version of the Tour of Heroes called Kendo UI, Tour of Heroes releases. And this is I'm just going to plop it in the chat. I think YouTube blocks things. I don't know. I think so. So you might just have to look up my GitHubs. But this is what I will throw things into the sidebar, and then as they make sense, I'll pull them into the application. Because sometimes, like the Gantt, if we scroll all the way down, was like really intimidating. I was like, I don't know how to make the Gantt work for my ponies. Like they don't have that intense of a schedule. Like they just don't. Like,
Yeah, I feel like but they have to extend the castle and build houses for the
mm-hmm.
other ponies, right? So that's a
Dude,
project that can get managed, and you have to lay the foundation first, and then you have to build a house or hut. I don't actually know
whenever
what they live in.
I would love to hear from chat if you have even heard of the word Gantt, like chart Gantt component, before this moment, because whenever they added, we have actually some updates. So I'm going to just go ahead and scroll down to the Gantt while we're talking about it. But whenever they added the Gantt, I was like, Carl, what are you saying? Like, I didn't even know what word I
Yeah.
was just baffled. And is this because it's more on like the people who are organized in their life, like that side of the world? Like,
Yeah. So
why?
Yeah. Project management is a big thing that a big role, I should say, and a big task to do for a lot of companies, right? And the Gantt is just a really good way to visualize that. And
so both Mike and Napalm are saying that they've heard of it, and so I think on the side of life that you were saying.
Yeah, exactly. So either you've seen the Gantt chart because somebody's project managing a project that you're working on, and you might cry a little bit knowing the unrealistic deadline that they've given you, or you've managed something yourself. Now, some folks even prefer to then bring that over into their personal life to try to organize themselves and provide some productivity.
Oh
But
my word. Okay, wait, you have actually seen someone use the Gantt for their personal, that to me is just
yes,
like level up.
yeah. It's all about how you like to organize yourself, and I think especially if you're used to dealing with that as a way to crank out tasks at work and know if you're on schedule or not, I think it can be useful. I have seen some folks use that for their home renovation projects of trying to first lay it all
Okay.
out and figure out, okay, how long will this actually take us? And then say, okay, well, the living room this amount of time, and within the living room we need to do these tasks, right? So I've seen some of that pop up.
So the Gantt got some love. Like,
Oh yeah,
also it's out of, I'm gonna
out
mess
of
up my terms.
beta, yeah.
Beta. It's now there's a
RTM,
keyword or something.
yeah,
RTM.
yeah,
I'm like, there's a T somewhere in
yeah.
there.
There's a T in there, yeah. RTM, yeah.
Real time. What is RT?
Release something or other. You know what, that's a acronym that I'm just so used to using and not thinking about what it actually stands for. But we can also just say V1. So it's out of beta and into V1. So it's
Into V1.
officially in there. And
Release turret. Yeah, I'm going with release turret.
Release turret management. Yeah, somebody actually knows.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Release to manufacturing. Is
There
that
we go.
actually it, Kev? Like, is that real?
believe
That's
so,
the
yeah. Yeah,
Woo,
it's an older
fans.
term that's been brought, that continues to roll around as we go from,
So
alpha into beta, etc.
Release to market. Yeah, that one makes sense. Release to market makes sense, Broco, for instead of manufacturing. I mean, at least for this industry. But so there was first of all, it's out of beta in the Angular component library now. It also got quite a few upgrades, one of which I was like, people do this. Drag and drop. Oh, hi, bye. Come here. You want to come say hi to everybody? Come say hi to everybody, pup. All right. This is the best thing I've ever made. Can you say hello?
Hello.
Can you say, my name is Daniel?
My name is Daniel.
Have a wonderful day, okay? I love you.
That's cute. He also dropped the mic for you, so what a way to exit.
He is the best. He is the best. He looks so sleepy. Whenever it's like, I don't know how it is weather-wise for you all. Mike, can you say mommy's code doesn't work? Yeah, he knows that one very well, Mike.
Yeah. That's rough stuff.
Yeah, he saw me yesterday with all of like the red and the NPM issues, and
and the crying
walks out. He knows. Yeah, and the crying.
That's what I do. I say, no, TypeScript, you're the one that's doing it wrong.
It's not me, I swear.
Yeah, fighting through tears, yelling at the compiler. Yeah.
But there was this one feature, and I was like, that's a thing called like for dependencies. So for those of you who are familiar with the Gantt, I guess now you can like connect them, and then you get these bits, and it like points, and there's a flow. And this to me makes me want to start hyperventilating, because I feel like sticky notes is the most organized I could ever get. So just from like a project manager side of life, this feature is good. Yes. It seems so scary.
Because you need to know which task is related to what task, like what comes first. So you can see, okay, this task might be composed of multiple subtasks. So you see here we have research, and then we have 3 items: validation with customers, market research, functional, and I'm assuming that's testing that item is, right? So you need to figure out when to do what, of course, like what the start and end date is, and if one is dependent on the other. So for example, you can do potentially validation with customers and market research at the same time. You don't necessarily need to do one before the other, but
Oh, I
you
see.
probably want to do validation with customers and market research and before you do functional and technical specification, because
Okay.
you want to feed in the information you have from those two tasks into the technical spec. So
Yeah.
they would then have, like you see in the screenshot there, two arrows going into it because you need to do one. You need to do those two to
Oh, you
feed
were talking
into
about
the
this
next
one
one. Yeah,
with these.
exactly.
Right, right.
Yep.
Okay, so they added the ability to essentially, it's like a GUI for these dependencies.
Yep.
And then there's also editing now, which was really cool because I guess there's multiple ways of getting to this editing. Like this, I was reading about how like the first is within the tree list portion. The second, you can configure with like a dialogue window like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. So that
And
dialog would
then
appear if
there's
you like double click on one of the tasks, for example, and then that tree list is like the
okay.
raw data because it is all these tasks are in a hierarchy and are dependent on each other. So that way you can also do some quick editing, like with just tabbing through and dealing with the editors we have baked in. But then
Okay.
this dialogue to make it a little bit more friendly, on the eyes.
That's really cool. There was quite a few Gantt updates. And so definitely you should like check out the Gantt. She is in prime time, out of beta
Oh yeah,
now, and
yeah,
flexing all of her. I think this the one. Yeah, this is the one
yeah,
where they have a with like reactive. It's where you can update, and you can read about the different ways of updating, but then you can also just check out this live demo that they made for updating. So it's really cool. I know I just like kind of jumped right down to the bottom. It's
no worries.
also, I think this is part of getting to RTM.
It is.
If I'm, is it right? Okay, because you have to essentially hit these pillars for
Yeah.
accessibility, and so I think does every single one of our components kind of make this checklist before you consider it out of beta?
Yep. Before it hits V1, essentially one of the requirements is that we add accessibility in there. So it might not always be in there from the initial beta version because we might need to add in additional functionality. Yeah. Catch you later.
That was maybe.
But
Hi, Maple.
yeah, we might need to add in additional features in order to be able to build an accessibility. But before we say it's officially in V1, it needs to pass. We follow Section 508 and WCAG 2.0 standards, and they're
Mm.
at this point. I think Section 508 says you need to follow WCAG 2.0. So in a way, I'm just saying the
Mm.
same thing twice. But then we also use WAI-ARIA or YARIA, as I like to call it, in order to have those standards kind of fall within the components, also help with accessibility. So so keyboard navigation, things like that are all going to be in a component, if applicable, of course, to make sure that it's accessible.
Very cool. Let me see. So I did want to talk about the editor, but let's go back up to the list because
Yeah.
there are barcodes and QR codes.
Hmm.
And I think those are all based on, this is something I wanted to talk about for those of you who might be new to the Kendo UI world. And I'm just going to close a bunch of these and we're going to go back to the overview of the grid. So over here we have this gorgeous sidebar of components in our docs, and these are, for lack of a better word, like the mama umbrella packages, and they within them. So for instance, here's barcodes, and inside of barcodes is both the barcode and the QR code, and it's kind of a way of packaging these not only on npm but just organizing them in our docs so that you're not downloading all 100 at once, and so that you can kind of know where each thing lives. So these two, I'm surprised they both came out together. Does
Yep.
that complete the set, do you think, for barcodes, or are we missing anything?
I'm sure there are types that we're missing.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only reason I say that is because if you think about like QR codes and barcodes to use for so many things to scan, and I'm sure there's so many types out there that we probably haven't thought of, that like hyper custom, to like manufacturing processes or like approving this or that. But what we're hoping is, the barcode itself has, I think it's like 18 or so different types you can select from. It did pull that number out of the back of my head, so it could be a little bit fuzzy. But there's a lot of different
No,
types that you can
I was gonna
access just
say
through one
that
configuration option.
is it 18? Where was that? I saw that listed somewhere, and I was like, you're talking about barcodes, right? Not QR
Yes,
codes?
barcodes. Yeah, QR codes.
Okay.
There's also some specific types there, but what's nice about a QR code, at least, is that you're representing an underlying value, like a URL or something like that, which makes it, I think, a little bit easier to generate. You don't necessarily have to have a ton of different types. You might want to, for example, what we did in a previous release for barcode QR codes in general was add the overlay ability, which is available out of the box here with the Angular barcode just straight out of the gate. So you can add a custom logo in the middle, and there are some QR code types that actually require that. So there's a Swiss QR code that deals with financial invoices that it requires to follow a particular standard. And as a part of that, in the middle, you actually see the Swiss flag. In this case, we extended it so you can also add your own custom logo. So if you want to add your company's logo in the middle, you can do that. But yeah, this follows a
So
certain
this
format.
is an image. This isn't part of the
So it
code?
is SVG or Canvas. So it doesn't, it's not strictly an image, but yeah, that little logo in there, it's just a part of the standard of how you recognize it as a Swiss QR code. Like there's other aspects to this QR code that make it the Swiss QR code, but when part of it is to identify it visually, so it's not just a bunch of these random black pixels. That Swiss flag in the middle is kind of the indication of this is what you're dealing with. Since it's hard to look at one of these with the naked eye and say, oh yes, I know it's QR code number 1028. You're actually you can see that it's a Swiss code.
I love that like a lot of phones and devices are supporting these now. It helps a lot, especially at like big events or conferences and things, to like quickly pull things up. Even I've seen speakers do it for their slides so that you can scan like the screen while someone's speaking and pull up either the demo that they're working on or the slides that they're working on. So these, even for personal use, are really freaking cool. But I don't think barcodes, I haven't seen this work the same way with mobile devices. Do you know if I don't think so. I think the QR code.
QR codes I think are probably more handy for the scenarios you talked about. But barcodes, they do still happen from time to time that you need that within your web application, because you might be printing what you're showing in the web app, right? It might be exported to PDF or something like that. We have a lot of customers that generate the barcode and then use our PDF library in order to be able to export that as a PDF file, and then users might be scanning that or might then later be printing that to be able to be attached to something, create a label for shipping or something. I'm not a barcode expert personally, but I do see a lot of scenarios where, they make sense added into a web app. It might not be the way that you say, yes, I'm going to have a barcode in my slide. So when you're in a conference in the back, you can take a screenshot of it or put the camera up to it and have it do something. But yeah, they're all over the place.
So I wanted, like, Sam asked me a really weird question, and I was like, I've never even thought about this question before. Around, well, he was asking in regards to the Angular world, but also our components of them being self-closing versus not. And he was upset because when he deleted our closing tag and tried to make it self-closing, it wasn't working. And I was like, first of all, why would you do that? Like, this is coming from someone who like writes out XAML, and I don't know if you know this, but it's like the most verbose markup language ever.
XAML,
and I'm like, okay, you write XAML. Why are you complaining about this closing tag? First of all. Secondly, it was in my mind just kind of like an understood, like most elements should be like have closing tags. There's just a few that break that exception in my mind. And so whenever Kendo UI comes out with a new component and it has a closing tag, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I never really questioned it. And I didn't know if you had anything to add to that conversation from earlier this week, because I was like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah, not really, because I'm under the same impressions as you, and I'm sure there are people that have, a lot of opinions on this potentially. I'm wondering if we're like dangerously close to like semicolon versus nil semicolon in JavaScript when it comes to closing tags and what people think about it. Like, oh, the browser understands it, don't worry about it. I
Yeah.
personally have essentially, like, outside of the BR tag, I almost always, forcefully inject the closing tag to be safe, even if I don't necessarily need it.
Yeah.
But there might
Yeah.
be somebody out there that disagrees with that. But in general,
I know.
that's my
Let us
opinion as
know,
well.
chat. Let us know, because I was super confused by that conversation, because it's just one of those things. I'm like, what? Why are you questioning life? This is the way life is. Like, what?
We all breathe. Are you gonna ask me why do you breathe? Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. No, that's where I was at. So I love the self-closing tag personally. Really. We have to talk, Catherine. We gotta talk. The self-closing, I don't know. I need to, but maybe it's because you come from the hot take.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because you come from like the React world. And I feel like that kind of sums up like our personalities as like React versus Angular. Cause I'm like, no, I want my close. Let's spell it out. That's where I'm at. So
Yeah. I will agree that if I'm including a component in a React component that I wrote myself, then
Mhm.
self-closing tag makes sense to me. But for some reason, my brain is like, yeah, it is HTML, but it's not really. And I then have within that component, I do the full closing tags when it actually comes to what's rendering. So yeah, I guess now
React
I'm
is
kind
a
of in
lawless
discussion.
land.
Oh yeah. There's no share there at all. Yeah, you can just do whatever you want.
Chaotic neutral. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, yes.
Yes, that's a really good way to
Oh,
describe it.
yes. That's perfect. Which you
Yeah.
would think I would love it, but I think it was just I got in to the Angular world early, and
Yeah,
they
you're
sold me.
lawful.
They
Yeah.
sold me on it. Yeah. I mean, they really won me over. Like, I actually was asked, in my D&D groups to not be chaotic evil. I was forced by, the GM to be at least chaotic good at the minimum, because I guess it was too disruptive to the play. I don't know. Who knows? So,
Yeah. That's so I only got into D&D for real like right before the pandemic, and luckily it's been able to
yeah.
keep our friend group sane throughout this entire time. But
Yes.
yeah, that was a recommendation too, because I always role play and like I always pick the good path. And if there's a game where there's a good and a bad path, I play the bad path first to get it out of the way and like rush through the game. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna like play the entire thing as how I would live in this world. But I wanted to challenge
Mm,
myself in D&D. But the recommendation
yeah.
is always, especially if it's like your first time around or if the group is newish, to the
Mm,
worst you can do is be neutral. And going a little bit further down into the chaotic, and even if it's like lawful evil, having an evil character can ruin it for a lot of folks if it's their first time.
this makes sense. This makes sense.
Yeah.
I just was like, wait, you're putting rules on this? This is a game. There should not be parameters here.
Yeah.
But I get it. I was making it very hard.
Yeah. Not to get into turning this into the D&D stream, but we had a character that turned into a werebore and turned into chaotic evil as a part of the transformation, and it definitely made it made the campaign
That is
interesting from that point on. Yeah.
yes, please. Yeah, because Rap Time, I said, I guess we might be sending a new email event invitation. Yep.
Yeah, we're
So,
accidentally adding 5 different streams. You know what? Cancel Hulu, Netflix, all your subscriptions. Code It Live is going to take care of everything for you. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I feel like a D&D game with the DevRel is like not a bad idea. I feel like that'd be
Ooh,
hilarious.
yeah,
So,
it'd be tempting.
Yeah. And it could all happen on stream. You can watch it fall. This is one I really wanted to ask you about
Oh yeah, the filter.
because I don't understand it.
Yeah, so if we think about filtering down data, right? If you have like hundreds of thousands of records, it's not just a question of, oh, is the item sold out, or is it this price? Like you can do some basic filtering with data, but there are some really advanced things that folks are looking to do in order to really truly get to that. Like, like you have to have all these things are true, and then all these things, or maybe an or statement of like it can be either or. So if you think about this, probably in code that you've written, sometimes you have some pretty advanced expressions to be able to find a particular item in, let's say, an array, right? That you're just trying to figure out, okay, out of all these hundreds of thousands of items, I'm trying to find something that has all these properties and then single that item out. But so for an end user that doesn't write, either regular regex, right, regular expressions, or it doesn't necessarily code a bunch of advanced if statements. You want to be able to represent something that is a little bit more advanced than usual, of single
Yeah.
drop down or a date picker or a date range. And that's where the filter component comes into play. So it allows you
I
to
think
go
it was
from a
just
simple
so
expression to super advanced.
it does, but I think my thing was, is it meant to pair with like the grid, for instance, or is it meant to live on its own? Or I
Oh
think that
yeah,
was my struggle of like, where does this live in our
it can
ecosystem?
be a little bit of both. So
Okay.
definitely, definitely being able to filter down data in a grid, like we have in this image. The table at the bottom is a kind of UI Angular grid.
Yeah.
That's a very common pairing, where instead of using the built-in filter expressions like on a column by column basis, you do this more advanced filtering outside of the component
Okay.
and then pair it to the underlying data. But really, the reason that we also offer this as a separate component is, first of all, it's a little bit cumbersome to have this be a part of the default Angular or any data table filtering. You can,
To ship with it.
you
Yeah.
know, you can continue to add rows here. So this can be, the entire page can just be filled with a long filter expression if you have complex enough data.
Yeah.
But there are some cases where it might be tied to a dropdown or tree view or something like
Okay.
that, right? It really is when you have a large data set that people want to narrow down to, with very specific parameters. The filter component works well on its own. And then, of course, because you can extract this, by the way, if you just want a way for users to make smaller requests to your backend. So you want to make sure
Yeah.
that the kind of, you don't just call for a million rows. You wait until the user has provided some parameters. This can be used just to filter down that request as well. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of different ways that you can take advantage of the component. But the benefit is, of course, for the end user, it's a series of buttons and fields that is easy to select from, with drop downs of the available fields and the various different, like the and or statements are big. And then, of course, you see in this screenshot, we have text boxes. You can have a numeric text box, additional drop downs, or even date pickers as a part of it. So it's a very powerful component from that side of things. And
Yeah,
yeah,
you're
I'm
getting some
super glad that
love
it's a
from the
huge win.
chat. Yeah.
Yeah. Woo!
I and I do see this, like, now that you're talking about the use case, especially, my husband used to work with this client for many, many hotels. And so they had a ton of data. And the internal team often needed to rewrite regexes to get different sets of data and in different ways. And a lot of them like weren't developers. So they're actually taking like regex classes to learn
Yeah.
how to write these
Oof.
just so that they could get access to the data
Yeah.
for their internal system. And so something like this is super powerful,
Yep.
to be able to. And I get it now. That was my first hang up, was like, wait, what does it belong to? But I see the power in having it be independent so that you can
Yeah.
use it how you need. So
Yeah, and you
makes
can
sense.
like I said, pull out data about the expression yourself, right? So I've even seen some folks use this as a way for your end users to be able to have a nice GUI to be able to filter down data, but then you extract all the different expressions, right? And then you create a regex based on that. So there's some ways that you as a developer can do additional glue between this and another component or data backend, right? But the nice thing is that, again, your users don't have to go to a course and learn regex, which Truth be told, my regex experience is, can I copy from Stack Overflow and does it work? Yep. All right. Never need to know what this does again. And I took like a course on that. I had an exam in college that specifically covered a huge section was building out regexes. And since then I've said, someone else is way smarter than me than figuring out all these different characters.
It's not a fun thing to go and learn and go and do. And so I'm just really it's a very powerful one. So the angular filter, I put the link in the chat. If you're on the YouTubes, here it is. I'm going to pop it up on screen for you. But it's a really, really cool one and it's very powerful. I'm actually excited I want to try to play around with it for the ponies, like filtering them and filtering all the data, because I think someone was mentioning, let's see, we need to provide a search interface that is independent of Kendo Grid. Can this filter be used without Data UI? I think the answer is yes, right?
Yeah,
like
totally.
I feel like you could use it simply as a search if that's where if that question's getting at.
Yeah, like I mentioned, you can pull out the expression from the component, which is nice. So I've used this in the past because we have this filter component in different libraries, but in demo apps I've written in the past, I've hooked into a live API somewhere like the Star Wars API and just use this in order to be able to filter down the request.
Filter through it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not, grabbing all the data from that public API and then filtering through data. I can filter down my request first to make that data transmission as small as possible.
Very cool. Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm excited to play with it more, and it is under its own umbrella. If you want to go ahead and add it into your project right now with ngAdd at Progress, it's under Kendo Angular Filter. So I wanted to check out the filter. I think that's all that lives under filter for right now. Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. All right. I have my computer fans because I have so many different little like demos running in Chrome. And so it's like, you can do this, computer. I believe in you. Yeah. There's two more. One is the Popover, which it was funny. Catherine was like, cannot get this to work. And this was part of my, my NPM issues. So if you ever are, and I know somebody was asking about, do you have to update to 13? No, you don't. But sometimes I get into these weird, like I might have, like one version of this component and I add a brand new component and that other component needs to be bumped up by one or something in order to be like, I have no idea why. And so if you do add a new component and it's not working or you're getting some weird error and you're like, I don't understand and there's no documentation on this error, most of the time, like if it's like fresh, right, and you're just now installing that component and you're having a weird issue, I would just say retry your ngAdd command or even do, and I'm going to show you real quick. So like for the Popover, if we go to our docs, he is under Tooltip. So if we go to scroll down, find Tooltips, and then we find Popover. Tooltips is going to be like that, like I said, that mama package of NPM where everything's under. So if you go down to quick setup, this is the ngAdd command that you can copy real quick to go ahead and add the tooltip. But on all of our docs, I love this. We have the manual setup as well. Maybe you have a bunch of different feature modules, right? And so you don't want to just add the ngAdd command. You want to do it per module. So this has the actual npm install, and it's showing you what other packages it needs, like Kendo Angular, like the pop-up and common and licensing, right? And so I would say if you run into something, just retry adding it or retry running your npm install command before kind of digging further into those errors, because oftentimes it's just something, I don't know why it didn't go through. I got the funkiest error the other day that was like, it actually said like npm has made a mistake. And I was like, what? Like it was the weirdest thing. Yeah. I was like, okay, I'll retry it. Like it was just very confusing. So definitely my advice to you whenever you're starting to like layer in components, and you might even be dealing with different versions of the components, and then what version of Angular am I on? So stick with it, but it's definitely whenever I find the true path of like, okay, I've installed everything properly and I have my dependencies set up properly, things work instantly. So I'll go to the tooltip, and this is like a really good way of testing, like, does everything work? And then by going to the popover and finding, because we have something I love about our docs. I'm so proud of our team for building these out. Like this is the popover on a calendar. And working as you hit the days, but you can go ahead and view the source and then just grab that popover, plop it into your app. And if you did all of the installs right, it should just work automatically. There shouldn't be a bunch of fiddling or things that you have to do. So that's kind of my heads up advice on wrestling with the NPM bear.
Yeah.
But
I don't
no, the
wrestle with it. I
popovers.
just submit. I just give up.
You're like,
I just nuke
you
everything
win.
and start over. I'm not creating applications that millions of people are relying on. It's mostly for myself or a small group of people. So it's easier to nuke the modules folder.
To
than
nuke
anything else.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Oh man, I feel like so many people wish they had that nuke option.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They're like, oh, I would so blow up this project if I could.
If I just could. If I just could. Yeah.
So the popover, that one is under Tooltip. I actually want to look real quick, because we have Tooltip as well. Is the difference just how it is activated?
No, I would say there are two different use cases. So the tooltip to me, I think, is something that we see here, right? Like a string, maybe a little bit of a custom layout, right? Of just showing some additional information. That is, if we look at the like kind of break down the word, right, of tooltip, like it is kind of like a tip, like a quick little, hey, like heads up, or here, right? Like we're trying to show where, oh, hey, here's like the, the city, right, in question, and some information about the population there. The popover is when you need to have a ton of additional information in there. So what you saw even in the overview demo where we have the calendar, is that you have that little no events for this day, and the icon, right, that represents that the event is empty. But essentially the popover just allows you to have really whatever you want in there. So think about in Outlook or in Google Calendar, or any one of these kind of calendar applications. If you highlight an event or click on an event, you get this big pop-up that shows like who's invited, what is the notes, whatever somebody wrote in the meeting, is there a Teams link, start and end time, like all this information that sometimes takes up your entire screen almost. And that's where the popover comes in, because that's way too much information for a simple tooltip. Or something like this, pumpkin waffles, which, I agree that now I too want waffles. It's getting close to lunch.
I know. I see the chat. I want waffles.
I'm drooling a little bit. But so this is something that goes a more advanced layout, right? You have the title at the top there, and then at the bottom you have the like. So we have both the concept of a title area within the popover as well as an action button area. So you can do things like the like
I'm
button,
gonna pull up the markup
accept,
real quick.
cancel. Yeah, there's a lot that you can do there.
So yes, we've got the Kendo popover, and I noticed that we're using like this template variable and just matching that up. So I'm assuming that's how it knows.
Yeah, to attach it
who
to
my popover is. Yeah.
Yep.
And then, like you were saying, the different areas of that template. We did have a question. I know is not necessarily popover related. I think it was from the last one. Bobbingham. I'm gonna try not to butcher it. The filter object created by the filter component, can this be passed into the grid data source request object? I think that's exactly what you were saying about this filter.
And I believe that we have a demo that showcases that we might be able to link to. If not, the short answer is yes. There might be some additional little glue that needs to be done, right? It's probably not something. Actually, you might even be able to just pass it into the filter property there or field there. But either way, it should be able to match up fairly easily. Now that the only reason I say should is because I haven't personally done it, so I'd have to experiment a little bit with that. But that's the whole idea of being able to work with the advanced filter expression that is built here to be able to then use that potentially as a part of the grid, and then be able to use that as a part of the data source request object going back and forth.
I love it. I love it. I think, okay, so we talked about Tooltip and Popover. Oh, my last question on those two was, so since it is more about, at least it seems like it's more about the content it's displaying and not how it's coming into
Yes.
life. So
Yep.
I'm assuming that means that you could have either one happen on hover or either one happen on click.
Yes, exactly. And you have full control over that. You do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. I wanted to scroll down. We've got one last new bud, and then I wanted to talk about some of the cool editor bits before we sign off today. And for those of you who don't know, we have webinars next week, and me, Carl, Catherine. Is anybody else going to be on our webinar? Am I missing
No, the three of us. Yeah. The dream
and we're going to be doing the dream team. We're going to be covering the Kendo UI suite, and it'll be multiple hour webinar and more detail, more formal. Twitch is always more chill. So definitely, I know Nightbot has been spamming about different 2022 R1 release bits. Definitely sign up for that webinar and come hang out with us next week. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll go. We will actually have the dev team on the chat just watching for questions. So if you have any specific, like Bobbingham, if you like want to come and ask that question again, we might even be able to like link you to an example. I also know that our feedback portal is a great place for those, because the support devs are amazing at just like quickly building something. I'm just amazed at how quick they can put something together and be like, yep, here's how, let me show you how to do that. So
yeah.
and
By the way, for both trial and of course licensed customers, you have access to the support ticketing system, which you're chatting directly with the people that are building the components as well. So, but yeah, on the webinar, since all of us will be busy talking about what we're showing in front of the screen, we have a full supporting cast that's helping us answer questions along the way. So that's also a great place to ask even more in-depth questions. Like Alyssa mentioned, having access to the actual folks that wrote the components to help out.
And also not just, new and upcoming things, but if there's an existing component that you have a question on, just bring your questions. We're super excited. It'll be good stuff next week. Let's see. Oh, the FlatColorPicker, he had me scratching my brain a little bit, but I'm assuming the word flat is because it is not collapsed. So it's like,
yes.
Uncollapsed.
Naming things is hard. The concept of flat means different things depending on who you're chatting with. But the reason that we call it the FlatColorPicker is essentially traditionally within our existing color picker, you have that little drop down that shows the color that you've selected, and then it shows this interface. But there are some scenarios where you might want to hide that behind a drop down. Like for example, there are parts of the developer tools in Chrome or other browsers where, yes, when you hover over a color that you've set up, that you click on it and then the color picker appears. But there might be some areas where it's a part of like the default UI, like you don't need to have it appear by clicking on the pop-up. So that's where it just comes from requests from customers to be able to have that interface, but outside of the drop down. So that's where the FlatColorPicker comes in.
I have personally, for an in-production app, built a color picker from scratch. So I applaud the team. This brings me back looking at this gorgeous color picker. It's fun. It's color.
Yeah.
Color math is fun.
I was saying this to Catherine yesterday. I think I would struggle with just being able to create a box with a gradient in it like we have here, let alone having that magically update with the sliders on the right, or having it something that allows you to pick it. I think that
honestly,
Yeah.
HSV for life. Yeah. The building out of this actual visual was not for me. That wasn't the hard part. Was taking, because they, like, Fuel is saying HSV, there were so many different color formats that I had to
Mm-hmm.
support, and it was going from digital to print. And so
Oh,
even,
okay, yeah.
yeah, even because it was for a fabric printing company for custom fabrics. And so then talking with, it was so fascinating getting to go down to our fabric printing floor and talk with them about the machines and how to interface with them, and how essentially there were these safety things that I had to do, because I could essentially like hurt someone if they were like physically in the machine at the time. And so there were all these weird different things I'd never thought about before with
Oh, geez.
software.
Yeah.
I know. I know. They're like, also, this is like a $1 million part. So please don't, run this thing at this time. And I'm like, these are a lot of good things to know, So it was a really, really fun process. But I just applaud our dev team, because it's not easy to do. And so,
Yeah.
and make it look so good. So I love it.
By
I'm
the way,
excited
when
about
you're saying that you could hurt somebody that's in the machine, are you saying that you came this close to recreating Dr. Manhattan? Like, is that what you're telling me?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, geez. Oh, geez. I guess we're lucky.
It was just, I did not personally like having the power of having a software app that was connected somewhere in the world to
To a
physical
machine.
hardware
Yeah.
that
Nope.
someone was working on. That made me very like but I love this. And honestly, if you don't have to, please don't recreate the wheel. Like these, oof, let's
Yeah, right.
just put that out there. But no, this is gorgeous. And he is underneath inputs. So that was something I did promise that we would talk about. So let's go ahead. Inputs has so many goodies. And this was something that that this document that you wrote up was talking about, how the updates happen to buttons inputs and date inputs. And when I was first getting into Kendo, I was like, why are the date inputs separate? But I think it's just because inputs themselves are so where was I? They are so I've lost it forever. I'm just going to close these out. They're so long, right? Like there's so many inputs underneath them. And so I think it was an easy way of like, let's break out date inputs into their own separate, like,
Yeah.
what do you call this? Chunk.
Yeah, exactly. Their own separate
Mhm.
package. And if you think about it too, it's also about the DNA that they share in common. So date inputs
Mm,
needs a lot of logic around handling dates. So, why have that as a part of your numeric text box package, right? That's extra code that you don't really need to be able to handle JavaScript dates. And then
that
some
makes
of the
sense.
data inputs also need a calendar. So I have that as a dependency where all you're doing is typing in the text area or selecting a color.
Mm,
So it boils down to some of that as well, where we try to figure out, okay, what makes sense, like where can we share code, where can we write a common file or set of files that then is associated with these. So that's why, for example, the tooltip and the popover are in the same package, because the logic of popping up, handling z
right.
indexes, and being able to figure
Yeah.
out, okay, do I, if there's not enough space, where do I render, where does the arrow go,
Yeah.
things like that. That's common and shared, and then you can write specific code for each component.
Okay. I like that. The common, what it's sharing. That makes a lot of sense. I wanted to, let me pull up. We've talked about all of the new components, but there was another, oh, and this is a really cool, we were talking earlier about some of the changes, and I like these images that I don't know how you created them, Carl. They're really
Oh, we have
cool.
a
With the
talented
old
design
and
team that I say, please, these are take a screenshot of this, take a screenshot of that,
okay.
new, old, and then figure out a nice way, and they come
I
up with
love
these
it.
gorgeous images. So I take
Mhm.
zero credit for it. That's all, kudos to our design team.
But let me find the editor, because there's lots of, and we're going to go more into the updates on all the components in the webinar. But I wanted to talk about the editor because she got a lot of love. And this is her. So we have had the Angular editor for a while now, right?
Mhm.
It's existed, but she got some updates. And is it under E for editor is my question.
It is under EFA editor. It's in its own package.
It is under its own package. Let us go find it. These little flags are super helpful, by the way. Of like updated and new, like that.
Yeah.
For me personally, I really like that.
I'm glad they're working. Yeah.
So I think we have enough time. I wanted to go ahead and try to add the editor in, and then as part of my because I will be updating the demo app to 13 and then making sure that's all merged in and happy. But I thought it would be fun today to just adding a component, and we can talk about some new features that it got updated with. And then behind the scenes, off screen, I will just wire that in so that everybody can see a working version of the editor. But when you find a component that you're like, yes, I need that in my life, head over to the getting started. And I'm going to use the ng add command. Like I said, there is a manual setup that you can follow, but I'm not using the feature modules. And so I can just go ahead and run that. And in my terminal, I'm going to go ahead and like bump up the font. And we're just going to run this. And then while we are running, I know you're like my pink terminal. I don't know. There's a theme here. I really like pink. So that ng add command is going to go ahead and run the installs that we need. And while that's happening, I wanted to talk about some of those updates that I wanted to see. So get selected text for the editor. That one was confusing to me. Some of the other ones that followed, I was like, yes, this all makes sense. Can you explain this selection text portion? And I'm actually going to pull up the docs because it's over here.
It's just an easy property to be able to pull out, either programmatically set selection if you like to, or be able to pull out what the user has selected in the editor. So, if you think of the editor, it can have a lot of content in it. So if you want to be able to extract what the user has highlighted, it's a nice way to just have a single property to be able to pull that out.
Okay. So sorry, my machine, this is her hating me right now because I'm running all of these installs. Yes, I did decide to run an npm install while we're on Stream Live. You're welcome. Ooh. I do it for you. I know my husband just said you're a monster. But yes, so the process that we're going to do is we are following the getting started. So the ng add command, and then I'm actually just going to, the next thing that I do with a new component, I pick one that's like relatively close to something I need. I was really excited about, I'm going to scroll down here. One of the features, see there's so many things like image resizing, select all, and print tools with the editor, resizing in general. I wanted to find, I think it's this one, applying commands to words. I loved this and I thought it was so cool. So this is actually going to be, I'm just going to grab the source off of this buddy, and then we're going to see if we can get it working. Okay, so my app flashed. I wonder if that means, no, she's still installing. I do apologize. It's, there it goes. I was like, at some point we should get some errors because I'm still running the application while installing new bits, which you might be like, why would you do that? This is because I'm a monster. Okay, we're going to go to
on hard mode.
Right? Just for funsies, we're going to go to dashboard, and I'm going to create a new section, and I'm going to throw in this editor. And then let's go back over here. And I need, it looks like we need to set a variable with a value. Which we can, obviously, I'm going to ponyfy this. I think what I'll do is I'll add it to the edit page whenever you click onto an individual pony and you want to like edit their data. And so I'll just load in that data into the Kendo editor. But for now, just so that we can get it visible, let's go ahead and boop, boop, boop. make this, make that, and then let's go check out our NPMs while I think it had it on this tab. It says that it's successfully installed.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, I don't know. Like, let's find out. We might have to, again, she's in a very fragile state, and I have no idea why, because I'm still in version 12. So I will spend tomorrow upgrading her to 13 and making sure that, I don't know, she's not as breakable. Sometimes I look at my code and I'm like, why you do this? I'm like,
That's
okay.
how I
So
look.
anyways,
I look at myself
see.
that way whenever I write code, and then I have the mirror next to me, and I say, "Why do you write code like this?
Why? But I think it'll be. Let me see. I have the Tour of Heroes has a dashboard page by default, and then they also have a Heroes page. And this is it loading in the data, and you can see some of the data is not loading right now. But I'm surprised we're even getting it to load this much. And then once you click on an actual pony, or you search for a pony from one of the pages, it has an individual, which I don't know if it's going to let us. I'm like doing things. I mean, see all these errors right now. This is because it's like not actually serving. So it's like really angry at me for even trying to navigate.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I will. I know. I love you, app. But yes, I will update that. So check out the GitHubs later, so that you can have a live version, and hopefully this runs. But while it's thinking, I wanted to see, I mean, there were so many updates to the editor. It's almost like we got a whole new editor. Like, there's a lot.
Yeah, and that was a big thing that we
Wow.
wanted to focus on with this release, is just to get some of those features that folks have been requesting. I mean, the editor, it's almost unlimited in its potential, so there's always something that we can add in there. But these are some of the heavy hitters. So resizing images inside of the content, like we do in this lovely GIF, resizing the editor itself. So you provide the editor for users, but maybe it's too small for them, or they want it to be smaller, based on their screen real estate. And what's nice about this too is that you can make that as big or as small as you like to. You can also set some boundaries, so users are a little bit constrained, so you don't break the entire rest of your layout. Being able
You're
to
like, I want a 10
editor.
pixel wide editor.
Yeah, or like I want it to be everywhere, and then the entire rest of the application breaks. So we have some settings for that. Handling the ability to split and merge cells within the table is nice as well. The applying command to words feature that you just mentioned, it sounds a little bit odd, but it's just a behavior in terms of how do things work when you interact with the content of the editor and do things like bold, italicize, and underline. So previously, the behavior would be if you just place the cursor like you did, like right in the smack in the middle of the word, and nothing was selected, it just wouldn't do anything unless you started typing. Then anything you typed from that point on would have
that, right?
Would have these properties. But now, if you enable this and apply this command, so in this case, the command is bold, italicized, or underlined. Now, if you just have the cursor in a word, it will just automatically do that to the entire word. So
it looks like it's just applied to word true, right?
Yep,
is the
exactly.
How we enable
so some folks might say, hey, this is what it always should have been. Some folks say, oh, I'm never going to use that because that's not what I use as expect. So that's why it's a configuration option and not immediately applied. But it is a quality of life improvement for sure for folks that expect the content to behave this way.
Fuel said previously on Code It Live. That's how each one should start. I know. I really should. We just have so many. Mike was asking me. He was like, why are you going live? Didn't you guys just go live? I'm like, we got a lot going on our DevRel team. Okay, there's too much to explain. All right.
Yeah.
Psy guy, PHX guy, sorry for always butchering this. Wrong link on the Angular editor table split merge.
Yes.
Sorry about that. I caught that last night too, and we are making a note to fix that in the blog. Sorry about that. And then Bobbingham was asking, did we get rid of the embed p tags in each LI item? What?
Great question. I don't know the answer to that, actually. So TBD, we can do a follow-up on that. So that's related to the underlying
Phoenix
HTML that gets created when you update and edit content. So for end users, right, they're just writing in text. But for developers, right, that want to pull out the information, it represents HTML. So like tags are being generated. So when you create a list or an unordered list, it's a UL and OL tag with LI items. So there might be some HTML that we're generating on top of that, right? Just for consistency's sake. If users expect a certain amount of padding or whatever it might be, we might add in a paragraph tag in there. Yeah,
okay.
I'm not personally not 100% sure. I haven't inspected the HTML that gets outputted specifically for this release, but
okay, sorry. Yeah, Birmingham, I wasn't so much as like, wow, how could you ask that question? I was confused because I was like, P tags? Like what P tags are we? I didn't know which component we were in reference to. So I'm with you now. Carl has set me straight. I'm like, I just thought you meant in general in life. Have we removed the LIs from the P tags? And I was like, have we, Carl?
Is this have we reached the state of civilization where we finally remove these tags? No, but it's completely within the editor content, and I'm not sure is a long answer to what it is, the definition of what the problem is, and then I'm not 100% sure what the answer is to it.
It looks like we have a living, breathing editor. I'm so excited.
Hey.
And look, it's got the new selection that's working, which I think I will. Like for me personally, I'm definitely going to enable that. I think that's really, really cool. The I wanted to see we're all clear. We added it. She's running. So now the next step is, like I said, if you go and we're going to click on Pinkie Pie because she's my favorite pony. And I don't know if you noticed that. I'm going to refresh so you can see. I love our skeleton component. So I threw in so many skeleton bits when the pony data is loading. And I'm actually going to full screen this and get rid of our dev tools real quick, just so you can see what it looks like on full screen. But this is the page that I'm actually going to plop in because there's quite a bit of data on each pony and then even images. And so I'm thinking I'll just have it load in because right now you can edit the name. But I'm thinking I'll just have all of this load in maybe in the editor and then you can edit it that way. But no, as you can see now on our dashboard page though, just for funsies, threw it in, looks good, seems to be working. So I'm really excited about interfacing with that. So check out the GitHubs later. We'll also have, as promised, an Angular 13 update. I will finally make myself do that. It's always because it's like right before a release that I'm like, should I update? And I need to just make myself like a calendar event that happens far away from releases. It's like, you should update now. Now is a safe time. This is safe, right? So
it's the equivalent of tinkering with your project the night before a presentation or a conference or something like that. You're like, oh, I really want to do this, but should you? Yeah. Should you? I've learned that the hard way that I should not. So I force myself to not do it.
But yes, check out. I really like this demo app. I'm going to keep it up to date and keep adding to it as we have more components. I think I'm also going to throw in the popover in a couple of places that it makes sense. Birmingham was saying, and I'm actually going to stop sharing and let's go full screen. Was saying that the forum has lots of posts telling us to develop an add-on for Prosmere. So this, I think you were telling me about Prosmere. This is something. Do you remember this, Carl?
Yeah, Prosmere is an open source project actually, run essentially an underlying editor engine that we based our editor on. And we have, of course, it's open source. We also sponsor it and have a support contract and everything, which I feel great about that we're able to contribute back to the community that way. But the power with that is that, we now have kind of a standard way for folks to be able to extend on top of the editor if we haven't been able to get to a particular feature yet, or if there's a behavior that doesn't work for your team specifically. There might even be some ways to work with our tools in combination, or to be able to create a custom tool. And again, it's like a standard Prosmere way of doing it. So there are scenarios where if we haven't gotten to something yet, we recommend, hey, we don't have that yet, but you do have the ability to do this if it's something that you need within the next couple of months, for your projects.
Okay.
That's of course an area where we can always improve, but it's nice that you have the capability, of course, to extend on top of the editor already.
I love it. We so I wanted to pitch some things, because I know we didn't get to everything. And so next Tuesday, me, Carl, and Catherine will be doing a webinar, and you can sign up. Does anybody have a link real quick? I know Nightbot's been plopping links to our YouTube, but there is a way to sign up for the webinar so that you know about it. You can join it with the bits. I think we're using GoToWebinar, but there will be a dev team on hold. Ask all your questions. So tune in Tuesday for that, and I will get you a link. I know I have one somewhere. And then
it exists.
Also it's there. I promise. It's not fake. I'm not making it up. Oh, thank you, Raptimi. It's, of course, she made a Nightbot command for such business. So also tomorrow, I believe there will be Fiddler and Test Studio.
Ooh, we have some testing in here.
Same bat channel in the morning. So come hang out for that fun. And then I think we also have, if you're like me and you love JavaScript, but you also have an affinity for .NET for some reason, we will be having the rest of our webinars next week as well. So, oh, perfect. There's the link. Thank you so much. It's progress.co, no O in it. 3ND and MNS. So
again, it rolls off the tongue.
Right there. Oh, I love you guys. So chat, you've made this so much fun. I do apologize for not bringing the usual Alyssa vibes. I'm still a little bit, whoa, but I am just really grateful for you and for Carl for getting me through this. I feel like there's just so many goodies, and I promise to bring the hype once I have the energy. It'll be back. You
still bring a plenty of energy. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. Do we want to raid anybody? Chat, let me know if somebody's live that like you want to see. I know we always have the chickens. The chickens are always, for those of you who don't know, Code It Live, we have a chicken mascot. Chickens are kind of our thing for some reason. And so there's also this chicken channel where these people put up cameras in a live chicken yard, and you can just 24/7 go check out the chickens. So I know there's always the chickens that we can raid, but also if there's somebody that's developing right now on Twitch, maybe we could send them some love. But no, seriously, thank you all so much for spending, whether this is your morning or your evening with us. Let's see. I'm pulling up the Twitches to see if anybody's online. Of course, the chickens are live. It looks like actually C# Fritz is live.
Ooh.
And he's doing CSS search and clip talk. There's also Lana Lux doing game dev. So what's the vote, chat? Fuel saying Visual Studio. I think they are live. They only have 22 viewers, so we could send them some love. They are talking about .NET and modernizing it. Modernization. Let's return the favor, C#. Yeah, he did raid us. Let's raid him. Perfect. Cindy, could you handle said raid? I could also do it. Either way. So let's go give C# some love. I like to call him Fritzy. I don't know if he likes that nickname. I should probably find out that. Before
before he's like, all right, that's too much.
Yeah. Before like continuing to call him that live in public. It's fine. Give Fritz the love. And thank you all so much. You've been a beautiful audience. I really loved this morning getting to chat with you. Awesome. All right, we are queuing up that raid. And yeah, check out our webinars next week. Next week.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else, Carl, before we sign off? Any other goods?
No, just filling the silence until the raid actually kicks off. No,
awesome.
It's Thursday, everybody. Almost Friday. We almost made it to the weekend.
Oh,
That's great.
whoa. It is Thursday. I'm kind of
Yeah, right?
oblivious of days anymore. They all just kind of mesh
Yeah,
into one
it's all
big.
one really long January 2020 is what I've experienced. Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. Awesome. Okay, let's see if we are. I'm trying to check and see if we are queued up for said raid. I think I can do it too, Cindy. If not, because I think I just need to do /raid and then at C#. It's as long as I spell it right, it should.
Oh yeah, I would not
You know, I mean,
personally. That would mess it up.
perfect. I am queuing up that raid. Everybody's hopping over. We are about to make sure give them lots of love in the chat and thank you everybody. We're raiding. Oh, she said it should have started. Well, we double raided. I don't know what happens when you double raid, but awesome. All right, ending our broadcast.